Good morning. My name is Stephen York. I'm the pastor of the Stonington United Methodist Church in Stonington, Maine. And this morning I'm preaching on the subject, living as an art form. When I was a little boy, I had great imagination and dreams about what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'm not sure if you thought about that as a child, but I'll talk about mine for a moment. I was convinced when I was in elementary school, probably about the 6th grade, that I wanted to be president of the United States. I am so thankful to God that I did not pursue that. I can't think for a moment of any job on the planet that's probably more stressful than being the president. But it was imagination. It was thinking and dreaming about what was possible. And one of the things that I have learned through the experience of becoming who I am today is just how much life is a series of daily, ordinary connections. We don't all become superstars, but life can be lived with grace and intentionality, with the simple joys. When I hear the poetry this morning of Anne Sexton, Hello Morning, and I think of her great struggles with depression and so many things that she went through until she ended her life, I look at a person with great gifts and great struggles, and this poem emerges on a day when she expresses great joy just for getting up in the morning, and for the feeling of the towel, and for the setting of the table, and for the way she heard, and remember this was written back in the 50s, the pot on the stove whistling to make probably instant coffee, I would imagine. And so it was the ordinary that she celebrated in that poem. Sometimes life is a series of looking for probably it would be better somewhere else, doing something else. But what I hear in that poem is that every day is a gift. Einstein said you can't live out in your past. You can hope for tomorrow, but it's today that makes the difference. Enjoying where we are today in the ordinary. And in order, from my perspective, in order to enjoy what we're doing, it takes one essential quality, and we heard this in the love chapter this morning. It takes love. What do you really love? What's important to you? I believe that what I love is what I'm going to be invested in. There are some things that I just have no interest in. I have interest in a lot of things, but there are some things I'm just not interested in. I love to read, but you couldn't pay me to read science fiction or horror. I accidentally one time watched a Stephen King movie. I didn't know it was a Stephen King movie. Had I known it, I probably wouldn't have watched it, but I actually got something out of it. But we all have preferences. But what the question that I'm asking is do we live life with that intentionality and with that love that I hear in the scriptures. Sometimes we, as human beings, can look at the ordinary and take it for granted. The fact that we can get out of bed in the morning on this beautiful island and know it's not perfect. And yes, times can be really hard, and sometimes relationships or economics can be really hard. I want to ask myself the question this morning: is the glass half full or is it half empty? It's a matter of perspective. The teachers that I teach in coursework throughout the state of Maine, I often remind them that doctors practice medicine, lawyers practice law, and teachers practice teaching. But I want to take that a step further this morning. We practice at life. Oh, it'd be so much easier if we could have known then what we know now. If we had been able to have the foresight on some of the decisions, significant decisions that we made in life. And sometimes we don't even realize they're significant until long after we've made them. I remember years ago I was applying at 2 different schools in Vermont to teach. And I got offered a job in each one of them. And because there was one closer to the house where I was living there in outside of Montpelier, I decided to accept the position at Berlin. Now, there are 2 versions of how they pronounce that in Vermont. I probably pronounced it the wrong way, but it's next to Montpelier. Little did I know that minor decision, well, it became major, but just the practical decision of wanting to be at a school closer to where I was living, rather than driving further in the distance with snow and ice and whatever in Vermont, did I know that at the teacher orientation session when I went to the job, that I was going to be paired off with you know how they do these ice-breaking things, you know, people meeting each other. Kind of stuff drives me nuts, but this one was actually an important one. And so they said, meet somebody you don't know. Well, that was easy for me because I didn't know anybody. But someone walked up to me and said, can I be your partner? Well, it was Catherine. I didn't know she meant it literally. Just that minor, in hindsight, I would have been walking to get that job if I had to, knowing now what I know. But sometimes our decisions, when we look back at them, we have either appreciation for the choices we've made, or we say, God, I wish I could have done that differently if I'd only known better, or, you know, if I'd not followed my youthful impulses to do something. But the joy is what Einstein said and what Paul said in his letter to the Corinthians in the love chapter, is that we know incompletely. We never have all the facts. I call it the algebra problem in life. There's always an X factor. There's always something I don't know. There are always the lines to read between. But living life is a practice, and it's an art form. When I was a child, the adults in my family thought it would be very important for me to take organ and piano lessons. And I did, and I had a wonderful music teacher.